Good morning. So this morning's midlife conversation is going to be a formidable one. And I use that word deliberately because Sarah Pittendrigh is joining me today. And Sarah, her whole reason for being is to show women that they can be formidable over 40. And Sarah, that was why I wanted to get you on today to talk about exactly that, about how we can still feel like we've still got it in all kinds of ways over 40. So first of all, hello. And just explain to people who may not have heard of you and what you do, how you got into this in the first place.
Well, good morning, and it's wonderful to be here with you today. How did I get here? Well, on a bumpy roller coaster ride. That's how I would say I got here. Today, I am a multi-award winning entrepreneur. I have a wedding and event business, which is franchised across the UK, styling beautiful weddings. My husband and I developed property, and now I am paying forward all the lessons I learned on my bumpy journey to support female founders and entrepreneurs who are, I would say, on the verge of burning out through the challenges of life. And they aren't always business related. A lot of them can also stem from their home and their personal life. So if we go back before 2008, when I became a solo entrepreneur, and if you like, I was a bankrupt single mum on income support. My home was repossessed in the bankruptcy. I had been a board director, and my fellow directors and I lost a 7-figure corporate event business in 2008. With the investment we'd put into the growth of the business, there was personal guarantees attached to it. And unfortunately, when more money was going out than coming in, 2008 was one hell of a bumpy year for many. Unfortunately, the impact meant that I had to declare myself bankrupt. So it's been an incredibly challenging journey. I would call this the entrepreneurial journey, if you like. But lots and lots of lessons learned. And in the middle of it all, I had cancer twice, malignant melanoma, diagnosed 2014 and 2015. And with that came challenges and lessons. So I just feel that I've got an awful lot of sort of knowledge, if you like, through the school of hard knocks. I learned a lot. And, you know, I suffered from narcissistic abuse as well in the past. And, you know, I understand that many high performers often get into this pattern of enough not being enough and pushing to prove their worth through the impact of that. And I just felt that I wanted to support them and let them know that they can be heard in a confidential environment which won't compromise their authority, where they can be vulnerable without being judged, and just to have their back, because often there are lone wolves.
Sarah, there's so much there to unpack, and we've obviously we've known each other for quite a few years now, in terms of we've through This Girl's on Fire and the marketplace of This Girl's on Fire. When it first started, you were one of our first female entrepreneurs that came on board with us, and that was how we came to know about each other. But what sort of drew me to you, Sarah, was not just your entrepreneurial know-how in terms of, you know, you speak about your wedding planning business. It was your personal fire, if you like. You know, you mentioned bankruptcy, getting cancer twice. You also got divorced and remarried. You actually remarried your husband again, which is just
that
glorious.
Bit, didn't I?
Just glorious, just amazing. Oh, you know, I love a wedding. But one of the things that I think makes you so great at what you do, which is coaching women in how to be formidable over 40, is something that I think is so instinctive to you, but maybe isn't to others. So exactly using your own words, you're paying it forward in terms of showing them how to find an inner resilience and how to turn something that no one's denying is an obstacle. No one's saying, oh, just get over it, or whether it is a bankruptcy, a marriage, a health scare. You're coaching women into how to, if you like, find their inner fire again so that they can rebuild. So I wanted to sort of peel that back a little bit and just ask you, where do you think you got yours from? Where did you get your resilience and your formidability, not a word now, is from?
To be honest, if you want the honest truth, at first, not from a good place. Not from a good place. My determination to get up and prove my worth, which was not from a good place. And that having to prove my worth, where I've all sort of been conditioned to believe I wasn't good enough for many different reasons in many different decades of my life. I had this sort of inner fight, I would say, to say, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it. I'm not going to let them believe it's this, and this. I'm going to prove it. And actually, to be honest, all that did was yes, I became hugely successful. I had after the bankruptcy, I was still, that probably even more made me prove my worth. I can't let them say they were right. I can't let them believe they were right, what they were saying. Or even if they weren't saying it in my head, I believed they were. So I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And ultimately, built the multi-seven-figure business with the properties and made money and won every big awards with the Simply Bosom chair covers business, franchised it. And then COVID came. And I realized I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't run, and keeping busy was really running. Proving my worth was running, because I wasn't facing the demons that were really chaining me down. And when I say chaining me down, making me feel like I had to run, I had to try and escape. And I had to start really understanding why, if I've made all the money and I've proved my worth financially, why do I not feel so good inside? Why is the outside that I'm portraying, the smiley face, the successful businesswoman, why doesn't she feel aligned with what's going on inside? Why is it, So I was really scared. Really, really scared. And the reason I was scared was because I thought, I've now got nowhere to go. I can't run. I've got the money in the bank. I feel horrific. That didn't do the trick. What's the answer? And the answer was, you've got to toughen up here, and you've got to really face what it is that makes you feel enough isn't enough. And I didn't know how to do this, but I did know how to build businesses. And I understood that I had a methodology that I used to bring opportunity from adversity. So I used that same methodology on myself. And I literally sat at the dining room table with notebooks, pens, coloured highlighters, you name it. And I started writing out how I felt, why, how, who, what. And I took it right the way back to when I last felt happy. And then I started moving forwards. And I thought about what I wanted life to look like, how I wanted to live my life. And even cancer, hadn't been enough to stop me running. And so I just took the lessons from everything. So everything that had caused me pain, I turned it into power. I decided to turn it into power to drive me forward from a place of self-worth and self-belief rather than a feeling of having to prove my worth. And then when I did that, I think that coincided with me I didn't meet Nick, but chatting to Nick through this Girls on Fire platform. I can never remember how all this came about, but this had kind of happened. And Nick had said to me, I'm sure he said, you've got to share this story or something like that with the world.
Yeah.
And I can remember, going around about this in the most ridiculous way, and it was unprofessional, and I didn't know how to do it. And I was all like, totally sort of bamboozled by it all, because that wasn't my world, and having to focus on me And the sort of the journey made it really uncomfortable. I didn't feel happy about talking about me. It was all right hiding behind my businesses, but when I had to throw me into the spotlight, that was a different ballgame. And anyway, long story short, I did find a coach and created the methodology because I realized, as Nick said, there were many people out there in the world who maybe felt like I felt, but hadn't had the opportunity or the ability for whatever reason to work through it, or knew how to, or had anyone to support them. So I turned it into a coaching program, and here I am. I think it's 3 years later now. So kind of long-winded, but that's how.
Oh no, it's brilliant, because I remember that time, and I remember your conversations with him, and it ended up becoming the I Can method.
Yes.
And and again, I want to unpick that a little bit, because you said you turned adversity into positivity, and things that hadn't worked out, and flipped them around into something that could work out. And I know in my own sort of teachings, it's I use the analogy of push or pull. So you can either use an adversity as something to push away from, and normally that's your starting point, because that's what gives you the kind of the anger and the fire in your belly, and I'll show them, or what have you. But that's not sustainable. And what you need after the initial push is the pull, and it's the pull towards something better. Would you say that's what you meant by taking something that was an adversity and then flipping it around and turning it into something that was useful? And
Yes.
if you can you pinpoint, because people could be watching this with all different kinds of adversities that they're facing. Again, it could be financial, health, relationships. Give an example of something that wasn't working and how you turned it around.
Yeah. It's about looking for the lesson. So it's about whenever something bad happens, or something goes not in the way that I want it to happen, I now ask why, and I now consider. So rather than allowing the emotion to attach to me automatically as if it must be my fault, I now consider the source, or I consider the action, rather than automatically apportioning the blame on me. Yeah, because thinking, always having that feeling of it must be my fault, or why I'm not good enough. Whatever. Now I take the time to consider. So I would look at adversity. I would look at something that's happening, and I would try to consider why. What has created it? Why has it happened? What can I learn from that? What can I take away from that? Many people fear being judged. Yeah, fear being judged, and fearing being judged stops people moving forward. It's literally like having a key. Someone else has got a key to the prison door, and you're on the other side of it. And until you allow yourself, to not feel judged, they are holding onto your life. And I always say, if you allow someone's judgment to hold you back, you're giving them 2 lives, and you're only existing. So it's about understanding why that person, this is an example using judgment, would feel the need to say that about you. So rather than taking the pain and saying, oh, crikey, what they're saying must be true, what have I done? What have I done to deserve this? It's about, why would that person say that about me? What could be going on in their life to make them feel that way? Why am I a threat? Why do they feel insecure? Why are they not happy with how things are going in their life to feel that they need to distract themselves from their own feelings, their own issues, and focus all their energy on me? Why? And when you actually do that, and you detach the emotion, and you have a more considered opinion, and you can make a more informed decision, then that gives you freedom, because it gives you the space, it gives you clarity, it gives you focus. And it also brings great comfort, because rather than it all being about you, you're nearly, I suppose, considering with empathy. And when you do that, rather than feel wounded, I think that brings great power. So that's just one example of how I would use that to bring positivity, rather than focusing on more ways of sort of building my own self-limiting beliefs.
I wanted to ask you, with the women that you work with, and you're coaching them to be formidable over 40, what sort of two levels really? Is there a specific kind of woman who comes to you in terms of wanting to be formidable, and what's the most common obstacle that they themselves have to overcome? Is it lack of self-belief? Is it lack of confidence? Are they starting right from scratch, or are they hugely successful but actually behind closed doors and away from the designer handbags and fancy cars that the outside world sees, that they actually don't feel like they are formidable? They feel like they're putting on a front and they're pretending.
I was going through the client notes that I make with my, with the people who I work with, out of interest. I was looking for a common thread, interesting, because the pattern is very similar. And the clients who come to me are high performing female entrepreneurs who they have to be very careful about who they can share with, because it's taken them years to build up authority. They could be the CEO of a multi 7-figure business. They could be somebody who's in the media, with a face that has to represent, I've got it all together. You know what I mean? So the high performers, and 90% of them have used the word that at some point in their life they have suffered from narcissistic abuse, whether that has been a parent, a partner, or somebody else in their life, maybe an employer. And there's sort of two sides to it. One side is the narcissist is causing them to burn out, as in the present day. So that might be a partner who they're with now. And it's sort of behind closed doors. You go home, it's exhausting. It's a completely different ball game to the face that you have to paint on to sit at the top of that boardroom table or to be in the public eye. And then you have the other side, which is the high performer who is driving themselves into the ground to prove their worth, because they were told they weren't enough, or they were told they weren't good enough, or they were told this, they were told that. They were always told they were something. And therefore they have felt, I'm going to show you. So I have the high performer who's burning out currently because, they've got enough's not enough from the past. And I've got the high performer who is struggling in a relationship with somebody who isn't supporting them, whether it's an employer or it's a partner. And it's my job to support them, to have their back, let them be heard, let them feel safe. Safety is a massive word. People quote they want freedom. People quote they want money. The reality, they want to feel safe. Because when you feel safe, safety brings freedom. You can be free when you feel safe, because you've got freedom to choose, but you need to feel safe. Because safety is that security that we all must create. Who wants to feel unsafe? Unsafe, it's just not a platform we want to be standing on. And with my own experiences and the empathy and the understanding and the lessons and the hindsight, and absolute no judgment whatsoever, because I'll tell you what, there is no space in my life to judge anybody. I've made that many mistakes. And I do believe that the space I create, they feel safe and they feel heard. And what we do is we talk about their personal life, because that's so important. I can't be doing with this, you've got to have a business coach or you have a life coach, whatever. It's if you're a female founder, it's a holistic approach. You don't separate one from the other. You need the other to support the other for you to feel good. And so that's what I do. I basically work with them first. We get the foundation solid. We clear away any roots, any debris that could cause the foundation to crack. And then as you start building your business, you're putting layers on. So you've got to be strong enough to withhold the weight of your future, your goals, your aspirations. And we sort you out, and then we start looking at the business or your goal, and we create together a strategy for growth that brings the goals to you without causing overwhelm, without you pushing the goal uphill on your own.
That's such an amazing description. I love that description, because I think that's how most of us of this sort of generation anyway have been brought up to believe, that if you are not pushing the goal uphill and it's not a struggle, then one, you're not doing it properly, and you don't deserve it if you get it. So I love this idea of drawing the goal towards you, and absolutely you're still putting the work in
absolutely.
and everything else. But your approach to it is different. If you could give sort of, I don't know, three bits of advice that you give to your women that you can pass on here to help them feel formidable. And also, actually, before we even start that, what's your definition of formidable? And then what are your three things that you would recommend women do to feel that way?
I think the most important thing to be, because formidable can be seen as so many ways. Formidable can be seen as frightening, as not approachable, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a formidable woman believes in herself. She has self-worth, and she believes that there's nothing out of reach. Nothing's impossible. She has a real I can do attitude. You know, it's not, she can turn her I can'ts into I cans. And if she can't, she'll find someone who can help her. She won't make excuses. And she basically values her self-worth. That's what I would describe. And she'll be kind, and she'll be compassionate, and she'll have empathy, but she knows what she deserves.
That's brilliant. I love that description. That's something for anyone to aim for. That's amazing. So what three things would you advise women, anyone watching this, to do?
Anything that drains your energy, scratch it off your list. Anything that fuels your energy and your power, get it on the top of your list. Be number one on your to-do list, because I think those things are important. Energy is the key to success. I really believe that, because if you haven't got energy, you have no motivation. If you haven't got motivation, you can't be creative, you can't be inspiring, you can't be inspired, and you can't be innovative. And all of those things lead to growth. So I think the thing that you've got to do is to protect your energy. And, you know, and I think those things, so it's so put yourself number one on your to-do list. Remove anything off your list that is draining your energy, and make sure that you surround yourself with the things that support your energy, because your energy is really your flow, and it's where you want to be, and it's where you want to go. So the things that are hindering your energy and sapping it, well, they're the things that are controlling you and stopping you from getting to where you want to be. So it's quite simple, but I'm a huge believer in protecting your energy and getting yourself on that to-do list.
I think that's such brilliant advice, because it's not just about conserving your energy and your well-being so that you can be a go-getter and be a CEO of a multi-seven-figure business, because not everybody wants that. And it's brilliant if you do, but your advice is it's worthwhile for absolutely everybody. And the reason for that is because, you know, the whole adage of you can't pour from an empty cup and all this kind of thing. You owe it to yourself to look after yourself, because when things are going good, it's really easy to cope with them and to sort of battle through and push through and all this sort of stuff. But you need to almost fill your energy tank for the times when they're not good, whether it is a challenge that's happening within your family, whether it's, you know, again, going back to whether it's your relationships, your children, your partner, financially, whatever it is. The whole reason that you're doing this and you're banking your energy and making yourself feel good is to give you the physical and mental and emotional resistance to cope when things will go wrong. Because they will. That's how life is. And just make that, you know, right at the very start, you said, I said, how did you get to do what you do? And you said, it's through a huge roller coaster. It was a roller coaster of a ride. And that's life. That is how life is. And if you don't prepare, you know, when things are great for when they're not. That dip, that emotional roller coaster of a dip is so much more challenging. So it's great advice just for
It is.
life in general.
And the other thing I would say about that is, if anyone listening, is imagine what you're achieving if half of your battery today is operating on anxiety, and you look at what you've achieved to date, only feeling 50% on form. Can you imagine how much you could achieve if you invested in yourself and were operating from 100% of self-worth filled with positive energy?
Yeah. And again, to caveat that, achieve is such a nuanced word.
Oh, yeah.
Because achieve can be whatever you decide.
Absolutely.
It doesn't even have to be business related.
No.
It could be absolutely anything. Because you literally only get one shot at this, one life, and you don't want to just accept living it feeling, oh, well, this is just how I feel, and I'm, you know, because Sarah and I have both been there. We have both 100% been there and know the difference between every day feeling like wading through treacle and forcing yourself to put one foot in front of the other, and the difference of feeling good in yourself and feeling well. So yeah, the achieving is whatever you decide it to be.
Yeah.
You know,
however big, however small, just as long as it's meaningful to you.
100%. I know when I was used to coach in the This Girls on Fire community, you know, and people say, oh, you run a female empowerment group. I don't really, in the sense that you're meaning it. What I do is, and I still do it in my different ways, is I want you to feel empowered to make whatever decision you want to make. Whatever decision it is irrelevant to me because it's about you. It could be, I want to rule the world, or it could be, actually, I have felt so agoraphobic since the pandemic that I can't leave my house anymore, and I haven't driven a car for 3 years. That's incredible. If that's your goal, that is dynamo. You know, that's amazing. Don't let anybody tell you what your should be.
That's right.
Only you. Only you. Your empowerment is to do with whatever you like, you know, to whatever level. Sarah, people want to approach you because they're like, right, fired up. I want to feel formidable over 40 or over. And actually, I want to ask you that. Do you have to be over 40 to come and see you, or can you be any
Not
age?
at all. I mean, my door's open to anybody at all. You know, it just seems to be that probably because I'm midlife that like attracts like, doesn't it? And, you know, I seem to have built a network of midlife women, you know, which is wonderful. But my door would always be open to anybody of any age, and it doesn't have to just be women. I also have men as well who have approached me and said, you know, I'm resonating with what you're saying. Can you support me too? And of course I will. You know, I'm here to support anybody who feels I can be of help.
And where can people find you?
Well, my biggest hangout's LinkedIn. So Sarah Pittendrigh on LinkedIn. Instagram, I've got 2 accounts on Instagram, and it can be confusing. So there's a personal one. So it's not that one. It's the Sarah Pittendrigh business one. It'll make sense if you see it. And I have a website, www.sarahpittendrigh.com, and everything's on there.
Brilliant. And I'll put all the links as well on here for everybody. You have been a delight as ever.
Oh, it's been wonderful.
So good to speak with you. And I can't believe after all these years, this is actually our first sort of face-to-face.
It really is. And it's been so nice. So great to catch up. It really has. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You are very, very welcome. I hope you've enjoyed today's midlife conversation. Make sure you like and subscribe this YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. And if you want to join in the conversation, head over to Facebook and check out Andrea McLean, This Girl is on Fire private Facebook group, where you can not only watch these videos, but join in the conversation as well. I'll see you next time.